Welcome to Sing When You're Losing, a sports, faith and culture podcast. And here's your host, Buddy Owen.
So hello everyone, welcome to the very first Sing When You're Losing podcast. This is truly our first attempt. No idea what's going to happen, where it's going to go.
No idea.
We've even got someone Skyping in from Jersey. If you're one of the Americans potentially listening, I don't mean New Jersey, I mean the original Jersey. And I'll introduce you to him in just a couple of minutes. Really is, we've got a special guest with us today, Jazza Dickens. I'll also introduce you to him in just a minute. But before I really get going, I just want to thank you for listening. It's been looking forward to doing this for a very long time. So just to let you know, my name is Buddy, and I am, among other things, I am a pastor of a church called Hope Church, Wirral, which is in Hoylake on the Wirral. I also am chaplain here at Tranmere Rovers, where we're videoing today, among other things. I'll stop there. I'll introduce you around, and then we can get into a bit of sports chat. I'll start by introducing the cast. So to my right is Johnny Brennan.
Hello, everyone.
Who are you? What do you do?
My name's Johnny. I am also a pastor at Hope Church. We're with you, and I love sports. So getting asked to come and be a cast member on this podcast was a dream come true. And so yeah, I'm 30 years old. I nearly said 29. I'm 30 years old, and yeah, I'm old now. I've had to warm up more in the last year before playing football than ever before. So I know I'm getting old.
Yeah, and trust me, it doesn't work. And we've also got on the Skype line from Jersey, we have Benjamin Cutting. Hello, Benjamin.
Hello, everyone. How are we doing? We all right?
Not too bad. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. I'm very well. Your resident Jersey boy is checking in.
Jersey boy. How's the weather in Jersey down south? It's quite cold up here in the north.
Today it's lovely. Over the last few days, we've had the first snow of about 6 years. So Everybody's been buzzing for snow. Sadly, no snow days, but today's looking bright with sunny spells.
Excellent. Good. It's bright here today too, but very cold. And just so you know, we're recording in the Wirral, which is northwest England, quite near Liverpool. Yeah, it's cold. It was snowing yesterday. It hasn't really been warm for about 10 years.
I might actually polarize the entire listenership here by I hate snow.
By your accent?
Surely snow is the worst thing.
Not if it sticks. Like the snow that you have is poor because it snows and it melts and it's just cold and wet.
I apologize for my country's snow.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that, buddy. I'm all or nothing when it comes to snow as well. I need it all.
Yeah.
I need it all. I need snowmen type stuff.
Yeah.
I need snow angels.
Snow angels,
I need
absolutely.
it all. And we don't get it enough here. We don't, especially not here. We had a bit of drizzle.
Yeah.
The whole island came to a standstill. Front page news.
all 100 cows. Were they
literally the cows went crazy. They didn't produce milk, they produced ice cream. Right. It went crazy over here in Jersey. And so those who don't know, Jersey is famous for its cows. That's just a clarification for the listeners. Jersey is very famous for its cows and potatoes.
And potatoes, yes, that's right.
Oh, you learn something new every day. I didn't know that.
There you go. You're welcome.
Thanks,
I will
Ben.
bring you something every time we meet of what Jersey is famous for. Today, it's cows.
Excellent.
You have set yourself a challenge there.
All right, just before we move on, so this is a sports, faith, and culture podcast. Really important to let people know who your favorite teams are.
Yep.
So let's start with Ben. So just whatever your favorite sports are, what are your favorite teams?
So I'm a huge. My favourite sport is football. I'm a football fan. I support Arsenal, the mighty Arsenal, and I also love some American sports. I love the NFL. I love the NBA. I'm a huge New York Giants fan, and I'm a New York Knicks fan as well. Pretty much anything to do with New York City, I am a fan of. So I've got the Knicks and the Giants as well in the NBA and the NFL.
I'm really pleased, obviously, as an American, that you're into the NFL.
Yeah.
You would have struggled to have done worse in choosing teams for the NFL and the NBA. But, you know, obviously you're going to learn to sing when you're losing, you know, following the Giants and the Knicks.
Absolutely.
And Arsenal.
I think that's why I'm
Arsenal.
here.
Yeah.
So it's the dream.
No Champions League next year. Anyway, we'll come back to that a bit later. So thanks, Ben. So Johnny, your teams?
Yeah, so I am a Wirral boy, born and bred, and so I grew up supporting Stoke City because my dad's from there, but I used to get bullied at school for supporting Stoke City, so very early on in my childhood, switched allegiance to the mighty Liverpool, and have followed them ever since. And so I follow American sports as well. I love NFL. It's been the last 5 years I've really got into it because someone once told me that all NFL is rugby with girly pads on, and so I thought I would find out if that was true or not, and got hooked by it. And so I support the Seattle Seahawks, which has been great for the first 2 years,
Glory
and then
Hunter.
horrendous for the last 3. And so I like rugby as well. And follow Sale Sharks a little bit, and Salford Reds.
Very good. And again, I'm Buddy. I am American originally from South Carolina, and I've lived in this wonderful country for about 20 years. So in terms of the NFL, Dallas Cowboys since birth, but really into college football. So if you know anything about that, you'll know that the Clemson Tigers are just the center of the universe when it comes to college football. And basketball, I like basketball, but I like players rather than teams. Definitely fall into the camp of Michael Jordan being the best basketball player ever to play the sport.
That is controversial.
No, not even the slightest bit controversial. Baseball, Atlanta Braves. Football, in this country, it's got to be Liverpool. Been a Liverpool fan for a long, long time. Like rugby, but wouldn't say I follow a particular team. So, yeah, I think that's probably...
Who's your favourite cricket team?
Let's talk about cricket on another podcast.
He doesn't like cricket.
No, don't say that out loud.
I mean, sorry. We can edit it, but I won't.
I don't...
Well, stop the clock. That's how long it took for that to come out that Buddy doesn't like cricket.
No, let's say I don't get cricket, okay? That's what a lot of my friends say. You don't like it because you don't get it. So let's go with I don't get cricket, because if I did get it, I would like it. And let's move on. So,
Buddy, here's a more serious question quickly.
Yeah.
Were you into soccer before you moved over to the UK?
Yeah, so I played soccer from the time I was sort of 5 years old.
For those of you who can't see us, he's doing the air quotation marks when he says played. He should be. Sorry, he should be.
No air quotes.
Should be.
Johnny, no, I won't. Johnny and I play football together sometimes. So Johnny knows that despite being 15 years older than him, I play like I'm 15 years younger than him. And so I played soccer from the time I was 5 years old. Played in high school. So I've always played. I played, I guess, soccer and football, which you would call American football, were my two main sports. I played American football at university, and so those are my main sports. But I've always loved football.
Nice.
Now it's time to introduce our guest. His name is Jazza Dickens, and we're now going to ask him some of these same questions that we've just answered. It's really good to meet you, Jazza. And I'm not going to try to say, I was going to say, what's your name and where do you come from? Because obviously we're on Merseyside and that's what Cilla Black would say, right? But it doesn't sound the same in my accent. So I'm going to get Johnny to do it in his Scouse accent.
Okay, so Jazza, what's your name and where do you come from?
My name's Jazza. My real name is James Dickens. and I'm from, as you would say, over the water in Liverpool, and that's it basically. Don't live far, just 10 or 15 minutes away, but over the Mersey.
We know you're a boxer, and we're going to talk a bit more about that later. But other than boxing, do you have any favorite teams, any favorite sports?
Other than boxing, I'd say I like sports where I'm more use your brain, tactical sports.
Yeah.
And non-contact sports like snooker and football. I would say football is a non-contact sport in comparison to boxing. You're not allowed to touch anyone, are you?
Well, you can
So football, Everton's my favourite team. I like snooker. I like sports with individual players rather than teams. Like you say yourself with the basketball, you like the players. I like the single players, the characters of all the different characters. That's what I like about snooker.
Yeah. So who's your favourite snooker player?
I like a player called Graham Dodd. He weren't ever the best, but he had a lot of art. I remember seeing him come through when I was a kid, watching him on coming through the championships with my cousin, and we couldn't believe how well he done, how much art he showed by progression coming through round after round. He ended up losing in the final. I can't remember who he lost to, but he done great that year. So he was always a big fan of him, and like John Higgins as well.
Yeah, snooker is another one of those things that, until I moved to this country, I'd never seen a snooker table before. The things are massive. Like, I struggle enough at pool. Yeah. And I go to a snooker table, and there's one where I play golf. There's a snooker table there. And some of the guys are like, do you want to play snooker? I'm like, no, because it takes me as long to clear a snooker table as it does to play an entire round of golf. I am that bad at snooker. It's a very tactical sport, as you say. And it's very, good. Everton, we're just going to let that go. Having said that,
we gave him the blue microphone.
Yeah, we did give him a blue microphone. So see, we do, we're trying to be Christian about it and inclusive and all that kind of stuff. So we gave you a blue mic. We're doing this podcast because we very much want to look at sports. We all love sports. We all are Christians as well. And so we want to look at where sports and where faith come together. But not just that, but culture. Sports plays such a big part in today's culture. And so across the podcast, over the coming podcasts, we're going to look at how those three overlap. And so with you today, we want to talk in just a few minutes about your boxing and but about your faith as well, and how those things fit together. And we look forward to hearing all about that. Before we get into that, we're going to discuss 6 topics. Now, we haven't warned Jazza what these are. These are quickly 6 topics. It's called Hit 6. There you go, a cricket reference for those of you who like cricket. And we're 6 topics from the world of sport that are current, and just going to discuss some of those really quickly. So Johnny is going to bring us the first 2.
So, it has been the weekend of the Super Bowl that's just gone past. And it was a great game. But in America, one of the biggest things they look forward to, other than the game, is the halftime Super Bowl adverts. And this year, one of those adverts included 2 NFL players, 2 of the most famous NFL players. In fact, Ben, you'll like these guys. Famous guys called Odell Beckham Jr. and Eli Manning. And they reenacted as part of this advert a scene from Dirty Dancing. Not
you know why they had so much time to rehearse it, though, don't you?
Wow. Okay, are we going there?
Yeah, they hadn't won a game since November last year. Oh well, look, 2016 even.
Odell didn't look that injured, by the way.
And, so they had plenty of time to rehearse this advert.
So they. In this advert, they reenacted the most famous scene where they do the lift. And from Dirty Dancing. Sorry, yes. So from Dirty Dancing, and it got me thinking because there was a load of hype online, and Twitter was going crazy about it, and so it got me thinking about the best and the worst sporting adverts. And I've got a couple. So anything that involves Cristiano Ronaldo and those guys in the Pepsi years when they used to do all of the football kind of skills and tricks. And the other one I can remember involves Tiger Woods and Rory McIlroy. Have you seen a Nike advert from a couple of years ago where they did some
Yeah,
trick shots?
very good, very
brilliant. But I wanted to know, have you guys got any favourite sporting adverts from years gone by? Jazza, are you looking interested?
Can it be anything in the past? I like the one years ago. Was it the Scorpion? Was it all the football players?
Yeah,
do you remember that one? Was it a silver ball? Was it the Scorpion ball?
I think so.
Yeah,
gold,
that's right.
maybe.
It was, wasn't it?
That was a good one, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was a good one. Yeah, for me, I've got to go back to Michael Jordan and Larry Bird. They used to have some fantastic adverts shooting basketballs from all over the place. So they'd start in the gym, and then they'd move outside the gym. They'd move into the building next door, and just some great adverts with Michael Jordan and Larry Bird. It's probably my favorite, or the Be Like Mike videos. The adverts.
Bit before my time, but we'll go for that.
Yeah, before your time. I rub it in. But you know what? It was great watching greatness live. You can only remember it through stories. What about you, Ben?
I've got to say, I mean, Jogger Bonito for me, when they Eric Cantona starts it off, and then they go all around all the pros. Ronaldinho, anything with Ronaldinho, basically the cage. I think that was the one Jazza said about the Scorpion. Thierry Henry, all those ones growing up. I found the Office linebacker? Was there one about an Office linebacker?
That's amazing.
That one for me was absolutely superb. I just used to go around taking out different Office members.
Yes,
that one was
I remember
superb.
that. I just remembered one from the World Cup a few years back now. The Budweiser adverts with multi-ball.
Yeah.
Do you remember that?
Well, we'll get on to that in a minute, because that is part of my next hit for 6. We'll get on to that. So, yeah. What about the worst? I can remember one. It's quite recent. I might be on my own here, but the whole Santander, it's in the UK, it's an advert for a bank, and it involved Rory McIlroy right after he was at the pinnacle of fame. And he'd been doing like the cool adverts with Nike and Tiger, and then suddenly Nike. Let's not do this on the podcast.
Nike.
Jazza, do you want to weigh in on this one? Nike or Nike?
Nike.
No. Well, there you go. Anyway,
well, I'm not going to argue with Jazza.
So, where he did an advert with Santander Bank with Jessica Ennis-Hill and Jenson Button, and it was the most cringy, horrendous.
Yep.
He was definitely only there for the money. Anyone else got any really cringy, bad adverts with footballers or sports people in general?
My brother was in a Santander one. I thought you were going to go off on him then.
Tell us about your brother.
My brother's Daniel Cutting. He does football tricks, and he got quite a big gig for Santander just before the World Cup, and so he was in every sort of advert. Just every advert during a game break, he would come on and do a few tricks, and then it would come up with, I can't remember what the tag like personal simple fair or something like that, and there would be 3 people, and he'd just do some tricks, and then they'd all sort of go around clapping at each other. Obviously, other banks and stuff are available. We should probably say that as well.
Absolutely.
Other banks and building
That
societies
would be great for our
available.
first podcast to run into a libel suit, wouldn't it? Straight off the back.
Yeah, and speaking of your brother, Daniel Cutting, you can check him out on YouTube, and he will be a guest on a later podcast as well, won't he?
Yes, he will.
That was
he
the
doesn't
right...
know it yet, but he 100% will.
That was the right answer. Okay, what are your 2? What have you got for us, Ben?
Mine are. I thought it'd be good to talk about the Six Nations, which is a rugby competition. For those who don't know, I'm sure everyone would know, but it's a rugby competition that happens every year between 6 nations. And just for those we are just finished round 1 of the Six Nations. Wales beat Scotland. France just lost to Ireland narrowly, and then obviously England beat Italy quite convincingly. But my question was: do we still get as hyped about the Six Nations as we used to be? I'm not into domestic rugby as such. I love all things international rugby. I love watching England. I love the Lions tours. But the World Cups, the Lions tours, they happen so infrequently that we're allowed to get so excited and so just hyped for those events. And so I was just wondering, do people still get, what do you guys think? Do you still get excited for the Six Nations? Is it just something that comes around too quickly? Should it be less of a yearly event? What's the deal with it? What do you think?
I know I don't have loads of time to watch the Six Nations because I have a 3-year-old daughter. But I know friends of mine who, when the Six Nations on, you cannot get them on a Saturday. So in terms of they all club together and they go around to people's houses and they religiously watch this. So in terms of my experience, it's not been like that. But I couldn't tell you who won 3 years ago, for example. So how memorable they become. I don't know.
I think
you're right. I'm still very similar. I still gather friends around and family, and we still watch it as a main event. But I just think it sort of has it lost its spark coming around too quickly, maybe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, possibly. My friends who are really into rugby wouldn't miss it. So it's obviously it's going to attract the diehards, the people that love their rugby. I guess your question, which is a bit more difficult to answer, maybe is, does it attract those on the fringes as much, or is it a bit tired for them? Is it a bit too often for them?
And you take it from the football kind of comparison of doing the World Cup every 4 years or the Euros every 4 years, and so even every 2 years is a major tournament. That I know that friends of mine who don't watch football during the season particularly will go and watch England get battered by someone in the quarterfinals.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's true.
Yeah. Is it because the Rugby World Cup is less frequent, isn't it? And so it's you still have the Rugby World Cup to look forward to. The Six Nations is a smaller tournament, and I guess for me, having it once a year, it's good. Or once every 2 years, is for local people, for the people of the nations. I think it's all right. I think if the World Cup was happening every year, then you'd be like, okay, it's a bit old now. But with it, I don't have a problem with that. Any thoughts, Jazza? Are you into rugby?
No, I've never watched it myself.
Never watched the Six Nations.
Just get the same amount of excitement every year.
Yeah.
Solid level of excitement year on year towards rugby. That is the way to be.
Excellent. That's fantastic. And again, for those of you who are listening who aren't from around here, I apologize that we don't have subtitles for Jazza. So, Ben, if you're in Jersey and wondering what he's saying, it's okay. I'm sitting next to him and wondering the same thing. So I'm going to be looking to Johnny to interpret sometimes.
I could make millions in Scouse translation.
No, listen.
I get told I'm posh from people in Liverpool.
I understand that my Dutch-Irish accent is pretty easy to understand.
That is a. If you are listening, that is a legitimate question. Whenever we go travelling or go and see different places, people either think our host buddy is Irish or Dutch or just a combination.
Oh dear. Anyway, that was just your first one, wasn't it? What was your?
That was my first one. My second one was about Swansea City. I just thought I'd take a team that maybe don't get talked about too often and just talk about. Can they avoid the drop? They obviously got rid of Paul Clement, which people thought was a strange decision, and they've been sort of rejuvenated under Carlos Carvajal. And
we'll go with the word rejuvenated.
What do you think? They're out of the bottom four, out of the bottom three for the first time this season. So what do you reckon?
Well, on current form, you struggle to say they're going to go down. Obviously, they've beaten Liverpool very recently, which hurts for Johnny and me.
They battered Arsenal.
They really battered Arsenal.
That hurts as well. But
they've also just battered Notts County, I believe, haven't they? In the cup, there was 8-1. Yeah, 8-1
last night.
Yeah, so they're looking good. I would struggle. I think there are teams that are looking worse at the moment, and I think I'd like to see them stay up. There are other teams that. I shouldn't say that I would prefer to go down.
We don't want to alienate people on the first podcast. That is rule number one.
But it would be nice to see Swansea stay up.
Yeah, it would. But I think it asks a bigger question then of this idea that because there's always a question when a club sack a manager maybe people think it's too soon, people think it's too late, but there always seems to be, in my kind of, from what I've seen, a rejuvenation, that kind of kick on straight away. And so the question is, how much of a mental lift does that do? How strong is that mental lift in terms of changing the manager, changing things around, and how important is that to a club day to day? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does often happen, doesn't it?
It does, yeah. And I think we've got to look at, I mean, West Brom at the moment are rock bottom of the Prem. They obviously got rid and bought in Alan Pardew, which hasn't done the same thing.
Yeah.
And obviously Tony Pulis was known as Mr. Motivator, which was a rather strange decision. I spent a lot of time focused on, I've got a good friend who's a Newcastle fan, so when Pardew was at Newcastle, we were living together, so I had a lot of time for looking at that. And so I'm not sure that was necessarily a great decision, but I think on paper, in terms of, I'd like to know what the stats are for those who bring in a new manager when they're struggling, and then what happens to those. See, I think if it was the other way around, if West Brom were perhaps rock bottom of the league, and then, not saying anything against Pardew, but then you bring in someone like Tony Pulis, he would be energised by his sort of character and the way he protects his players in interviews. And I think there's just got to be a lot said for that type of manager who is all about, regalvanising the team and protection of the players. I think that helps players a lot to feel. As a footballer who's played at an amateur level my whole life, I'm not sure about press conferences and how it works behind the scenes. But just in terms of a manager protecting the players and taking a lot of the stick for the team, I think that's something that would really enhance the team to crack on and push on. So,
I mean, there seem to be certain managers who are specialists in doing this, don't there? The Steve Bruce and Sam Allardyce.
Jazz is looking really nervous over there.
I think he's throwing players into the bus at the minute. Isn't he? I think he's taking no responsibility to keep his own position, but I think that he should be taking more for the lads as well as. But they do get a lot of stick as well, don't they? They get a lot thrown at them when they can't physically do nothing. They're not on the pitch kicking the ball, so he has to be a good manager, make that call at the time, doesn't he? But throwing your players under the bus isn't good.
No, no,
it's never good.
It's never good. No, never good. I think just in my little experience, so much more happens behind the scenes than you could ever imagine.
Absolutely.
In training, and there's the relationship between the manager and the players and each other is so important. And having a manager, as you were saying, that can galvanize the players to play for him, but also for each other is crucial. And particularly, I think when you're in a dogfight, when you're at the bottom trying to work your way out, having that manager that can just spur you on, who can take a bit of the heat for you, is crucial. I cut Johnny off before. I only let him do one of his two. I just thought it was because he was so boring.
Well, I did think. And, not going to lie, it hurt.
Okay, good.
Would you like me to?
Yeah, go for it now.
So again, football related. Moving on nicely from Swansea City. As a Liverpool fan, I feel huge injustice this past weekend when a refereeing decision went against Liverpool that led to Tottenham, who were playing, equalising from the penalty spot in the last minute. Now, if you look at the replays, the alleged penalty incident was clearly not a foul. And so I have been asking the question this week with friends of, is it time for football to catch up completely with other sports such as rugby, cricket, NFL, and really, really integrate the use of technology, video replays, and in my opinion, move away from the Stone Ages and use technology, because actually that the football industry is worth billions, if not trillions, and decisions like that can make a huge difference. If Liverpool don't get in the Champions League or by a couple of points, that could be down to the linesman who made that decision. And so that
assistant referee.
Sorry. Oh, I'm getting, and I need to brush up on my skills. But so, genuine question. Bit of an outrage supporter over here. I'm not going to lie. Was screaming at the television. You were at the game, buddy, weren't you?
I was at the game.
Did it look like a penalty?
No, but when you're sitting in the Kop, nothing
looks like a
ever looks
penalty.
like a penalty against Liverpool. And if you sat there and said, "Oh yeah, that was a clear penalty," you'd be mobbed. So. But no, it didn't look like one, but when you're watching it live, it's very hard to see, which could be a reason for going with the VAR, because the ref is watching it live.
Yeah.
Whereas the guys watching the TV have better views. They can watch it over and over. Again, being American, the American sports, American football, tennis, loads of the sports now have video replays, and it's a big money sport, so you can see the purpose behind it, and I like it. I like the idea. I think trying to work it into football will be interesting because it's such a flowing game, and that's one of the things that people love so much about it, that the game flows nonstop, sort of.
But in my argument for video replaying, when you award a penalty, you stop the game.
Yes, I agree. I agree with that.
So it's not like you are stopping attack mid-flow.
Yeah.
And then the question is, how far is too far, and when do you stop doing video replays? And we've got goal line technology now, and we're progressing. But yeah, I'm interested to see if anyone's got a strikingly opposing opinion to me. In the room.
Well, I just saw an article today with Pochettino from Tottenham, obviously, and he was
boo.
Yeah, boo. He was saying that that English moralizing is ruining the sport, and so for him, quote unquote, diving is part of the game. It's part of the tactics. So if you're from his point of view, from my understanding of the article, if you're the manager of a team, your goal is to win. Your team's goal is to win. And so you whatever tactic you need to employ to win, that's part of the game. Therefore, if diving earns you a penalty, which earns you the win, that diving was part of the tactic. And so he feels that we're putting so much emphasis on the diving, the play acting, all these things, that we're over moralizing. What do we think about that?
I've got a lad who plays Sunday League now, and if I seen one of the kids diving on the floor, it'd be heartbreaking, wouldn't it? That these kids are looking at these professional players, and I don't think that diving should be a part of the game. And I think the referee could lose his importance by having the camera know that the camera, the third referee sort of thing. I think that the referee could lose his importance, and he's always been in a position of respect and power, and is where it goes, doesn't it? So will the referee lose his importance by this?
Do you think it's worth the referee losing his importance to get a fair game?
No one's ever liked the referee anyway.
That is a fair point. And you're right, and that's one of the arguments, that the referee, what's the point of him being there then? Which is a bit silly because he does lots of other things as well. But any thoughts, Ben?
I think it's. I'm always interested watching. Whenever you watch BT Sport and they go over to one of the refs, one of the commentators says, "Oh, we're just going to go over to one of the refs," and it's one of the ex-refs who have. And basically, they always tend to agree with what the referee says. There seems to be this union of referees union where they don't want to undermine what the referee would say. Suddenly, if somebody was to come out and say, "Oh, I think that was definitely a penalty," when he didn't give it, it's going to cause more more controversy than it needs to be. And I think part of me worries about that side of the game. I also worry that we watched the debate show last night or 2 nights ago with Wayne Rooney, and Wayne was talking of, they slowed the penalty decision down over and over again. And they were saying, well, of course contact was made, but Harry Kane initiates the contact for the penalty. Yeah. So, he takes the ball away from goal. And then as soon as he rounds the keeper, his focus then isn't to score a goal or stay on his feet and round him and put the ball in the net. It's to get contact. Jamie Vardy is another who's come under that scrutiny over the last few years, who would perhaps on occasion, people have argued that he throws himself into a challenge. I mean, we're not out to call out players, of course, but I think that for me makes it incredibly difficult. And we slowed it down, watched it over and over again. And on paper, is it a penalty? Well, he makes contact with Harry Kane, so yes, it is. But of course, Harry Kane is looking, as Pochettino said, maybe the tactics of the game has changed, and it's then become about the dive and about the more so about that. My excitement around VAR, I'm a huge advocate of it. I would love to see it in football, but more so for I'm still hurting from the 2010 World Cup when Lampard scored the goal against Germany, which would have got us back 2-2, and and that's maybe that's goal line technology, which we've already got. But FIFA have come out and said that VAR is going to be used at the World Cup, and I think which I think probably means that from next season, we've trialled it in the FA Cup and the Carabao Cup this year. I think from next season we can expect to see it in the Premier League, absolutely. But it just will take time to become quicker, and get more, and for people to get used to it.
Yeah, and I guess it's going back full circle on the argument. I know that VAR isn't the answer to all of the problems, and we'll talk about this because later on when we talk about the Super Bowl. But there was a couple of decisions in the Super Bowl that we were sat watching it and could have gone either way, and we weren't sure what the referee was going to decide based on their interpretation of the rules. And so I guess I'm with Ben. I just want to see. I'm hurting bitterly from the weekend.
Well, let's go ahead and jump into the Super Bowl then, just for a couple of minutes. It was nice to finally... the good guys lost last year when the Atlanta Falcons were beat at the very end by the New England Patriots. But this year, I feel like, and if you know anything about American football, you'll know that it's hard for me to say this as a Dallas Cowboy fan. But the good guys, the Philadelphia Eagles, won. They did. The biggest underdogs ever going into a Super Bowl, really? I believe they were. And yet they came out on top. And I'm just really pleased about that for all sorts of reasons. I think the Patriots personally have just gotten on my nerves for the last 10 or 12 years from winning everything. I'm going to be honest about that.
I was about to say, is it the Man United effect where it's really annoyingly that they're that good?
Yeah, I think possibly. Yeah. As a Dallas Cowboy fan, we have 5 Super Bowls. There's only one team with more Super Bowls than us, and the Patriots could have cleared us there, and so I'm glad they didn't. But with the Philadelphia Eagles, there is something amazing going on, it seems, around that team at the moment, and their coach after the game in his post-match interview said the first thing they asked him, I think it was 9 years ago, he was coaching high school football in America. 9 years later, he's coaching the Super Bowl champions. And they asked him, how do you get there? How did you get from there to here? And the first thing out of his mouth was that he would like to thank his Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, for helping him get to this point. Now, a lot of people say, well, a lot of American sportsmen say that, but it's just rhetoric. They don't mean it. It's just the culture. But there are a few guys with the Philadelphia Eagles right now that are saying the same thing repeatedly.
And if you watch the clip as well, he is not. That is not a placid, knows that he should say it kind of thing. He is there in the moments. That is what he is thinking about, and that's where his attention is. And that was really cool. And like you said, there's more going on in the Eagles at the minute as well, isn't there?
Yeah, well, Nick Foles, who was the quarterback that came in for the end of the season after Carson Wentz went down. Carson Wentz is a professing Christian, as is Nick Foles. And Nick Foles just this past week said that when he retires from football, he's going to go to seminary to become a pastor. There's some incredible things happening. But, Jazza, that's not normal in British sports, is it? For someone to come out and say, after a big victory, they don't just come out and say, I'd like to give all the glory to my Lord and Saviour Jesus Christ.
You normally get people that don't believe in the Lord. You normally thank the sponsors, don't you? Or people like that. I don't suppose he doesn't have to thank the Lord.
To thank Nike for my incredible boots.
Nike.
Nike.
I don't think that he would say it if he didn't mean it.
Yeah. No, you can certainly, I think you could see in his face and with the rest of them that it is something that's very real to them. But why, we don't want to go, we'll come back to this on another podcast, but it is one of the things that we want to think about. Why is it so difficult why is it difficult in this culture here in the UK? Why is it so difficult to express your faith? Why are people so hesitant about doing it? And particular, not just sportsmen, but particularly professional sportsmen. Jazza, we're going to talk to you in just a minute about you and your faith, and I'm so excited to hear about how that's happened. But why can't more people do it? What's the problem? Do they just not have the faith?
I grew up in a place where it was almost like you would relate faith to being crazy, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
That's sort of how we came across, and a lot of people see it as being crazy. I don't know, maybe they're ashamed to talk about it. I'm not too sure why, to be honest.
Yeah, no.
And sports people, I think in general, are so focused and so kind of competitive, and a lot of their craft is based on their performance, what they do. And so maybe, that kind of mentality mixed in with what Jazza was saying about the faith making you look crazy or weak. Maybe part of the reason why there are. I mean, to be fair, even in the UK, there are some quite high profile footballers and rugby players who are professing Christians and who talk about it openly on social media and various things. So it's not all kind of. But I appreciate the in comparison to some of the American sports, and some of the South American teams. And it's an interesting question of why, isn't it, really? I don't think I have a definitive answer.
When was the last time you heard, after a football match, a player or a coach say blatantly, I'd like to thank my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ in this country?
I've never heard that from football.
I've never heard it.
I agree. I've never heard it. You sort of think match of the day. If it was on match of the day or something like that, and a Sky Sports interview, you might. But it might be more accepted. It might get a positive or negative reaction on. You can imagine sort of Twitter going crazy and stop using this interview as a chance to proclaim your personal views. That's the sort of thing that you could imagine people jumping on the bandwagon about. I think there seems to be some sort of overseas acceptance, perhaps around faith and around the culture of that. So if it's happening in America, that's fine. Or where we see international players and those come from overseas to the UK. I think about. I remember a couple of interviews with people like Demba Ba and Asamoah Gyan from the. When he played for Sunderland, the Ghana captain, and it's very. I want to thank God.
Yeah. But you get the odd thank God, don't you?
And you see a lot of the African nation players, don't you, making the sign of the cross when they're celebrating the sign of the cross and, raise their hands.
I think it's interesting because I obviously, growing up with that, it was in the States, it wasn't uncommon. But I've lived in the UK now for 20 years. And even I sometimes now, I hate to admit, you hear someone say it and you're like, oh, that's uncomfortable. And I find it particularly with golfers. Because there are a number of golfers on the PGA Tour that are Christian now. And Bill Haas and Ricky Fowler, several of them. And often it'll be the Sky Sports News presenter saying, how did you play today? And well, I'd like to thank Jesus Christ for giving me the ability. And it's not like it's American television being viewed here like the Super Bowl is. You're on Sky Sports and you're saying that. Yeah. And even I'm like, people aren't going to like that. People are going to struggle with that. That's interesting. Why do I feel like that? I shouldn't.
It's part of the culture, isn't it? And ultimately, that's what UK culture, UK sport culture, is different to other places in the world. And a lot of the culture in sport will replicate and mirror the culture in society as well. And so it's really interesting that is the way in America. It compared to some of the UK sports that culture is mirrored in society and sports.
Yeah. And then finally, on the Hit 6, and I wanted to talk about this particularly because we've got Jazza here today and it sort of relates a little bit. Currently in the news is the issue of ring girls.
And grid girls.
Girls and all that kind of... is it sexist or is it not sexist to have the grid girls? I know that... for Formula One, they've stopped them now, haven't they? They've said we're not going to have them. I think, and darts, they've stopped the girls leading out. But it's a huge debate at the moment, isn't it? Even ladies arguing for ring girls. Jazza, do you have any thoughts on that? And
yeah, well, I was talking about this the other day to my girlfriend, and I was saying it goes a lot deeper than just the ring girl, and a lot of these girls are actually providing a living, aren't they? So maybe you're taking a living away from some of these girls. Some of them do it because they like what comes with it, but I think that you could be actually taking a living away from these girls, and then go further back than that. It's been around for centuries, hasn't it? It's been around for so long. It's tradition almost. So to take away tradition, I think it's possibly not the best thing. I think it's become too, everything's got to be perfect, and I don't think that. I think if we did become perfect, we'd only want to end up back not perfect. Living in a perfect world. I don't think it's gonna help us. I don't think we can fix everything, and I don't know.
Yeah. So, what do you think having a ring girl? In case you're not aware, we're talking about the girls who come out almost clothed, holding a sign telling us what round it is between the rounds in boxing. What do you think they add to a boxing match? I mean, do you think they have a value?
Personally, I don't think they do, no. But I think it's become part of it. I just think it's become part of the boxing show, and it's going to be there when you turn up at a boxing show. It's going to be there. That's a part of it, I think. But I don't. You're right, like saying that. I don't think they can add anything. But I don't. What is the actual reason for taking them away?
Well, yeah, it's a good question. And opinions differ, don't they? So Some would say we're taking them away because it's objectifying women. We're only putting the woman there so that people can look at them. And by just putting them there to be looked at, we're saying you're just an object to be looked at. Your only value is to be looked at. Now, others say it's providing me a job. The girls might say it's providing me a job. It's going to help me get a job as a model, or might further my career somehow. Any thoughts? Anyone else?
The women saying that they're not an object and they shouldn't be doing this because they're not an object, which is not. They're not objects, sadly, but does that mean that everybody has to live by the same idea that these people live by? Can't these girls say, well, I know I'm not an object, but this is something that I want to do? Could there not be two different ideas from it? Does it mean that they are objects if that's what they do as work?
Yeah, it's tough, isn't it? I can understand. I can understand the argument on both sides. I
think the arguments on both sides are, like you said, the objectification and the reason that they're there, but also the other side of it, which has come from both women who do that job and other people, is that they're not being necessarily forced into doing that, and that they have a choice to do that, and they in this case want to do that. Who has the right to say that they can't do that? And I think they're the two big arguments, aren't they, in terms of this debate, and it has blown up massively. And people who haven't had opinions on stuff before are being very vocal about this on both sides, and it has shocked me personally on this, how many people have got involved in this debate. And so there's something there, isn't there, that has created a spark in people to get involved and chat and give them their viewpoint on it.
Just before the podcast today, I went into an office here at Tranmere Rovers and asked some ladies working in the office. There were 5 or 6 ladies working in there, and I said, we're going to talk about this on the podcast. What do you think about this issue? And just ask the ladies, see what they think. And they all said that they hate the idea of ring girls or grid girls or whatever it is. But one of them said, what if so all of these girls that are walking around the ring holding the cards up, they're all beautiful, right? But then who's deciding what beautiful is? Are we objectifying them by saying, well, we're only allowing you to do it because you fit what the world says beautiful is? That girl doesn't fit what the world says beautiful is. So we're gonna objectify you. We're going to put you front and center. But what we think the ugly girl is, we're going to leave her to the side. That's something that they said that I thought was really interesting. They feel it's setting the wrong idea of what beauty is. Do you have any thoughts on that?
I personally think that the fakeness is I wouldn't say that's a great look for a woman. No, the rubber lips and all the fakeness stuff, I wouldn't say it's a great look, but I don't say you shouldn't be a ringer because you're fake, if that makes sense. So I think that if these women want to do it, let them do it. And if I want to get so bothered about it, it's nothing to do with me. I just stay out of it. I think that a lot of other people should just say this is their life, they want to live it like that, let them do it. I don't understand why. You're
usually focused on something else in the boxing kind of arena,
right.
Aren't you?
Yeah.
You've got something else.
Yeah, well, I think that there's no need for these people to get so angry about it. I think they should focus on fixing their own world rather than fixing these people who, most of them are just trying to provide,
Yeah, fascinating. And again, hopefully subject we can come back to at some point. We're going to go now, we're going to try to dig into your background a little bit more, Jazza, hear a little bit more about your story. So just a quick fire round. Let's find out a little bit about your background. Yeah? So, are you married?
No, I'm engaged.
Engaged?
Yeah.
Oh, when's the big day?
haven't got a date yet. We haven't made a date. Things are a bit up in the air with fights, and you can't really make dates because boxing's so unpredictable. You could be fighting. I've got 2 fights coming up at the minute, but I haven't had one for 6 months, so you don't know what's going to happen. So you'll have to look at that at a later date.
Okay, so engaged. Kids?
3 kids.
3
I've
kids.
got a stepson, he's 9, and then I've got a daughter, she's 3 on Sunday, and my son, he's 2 the week after that.
Wow. How do you find time to train?
Well, I'm lucky to have a good girl who looks after everything at home.
Wow. 3 kids. I mean, just doing that is good training, I reckon.
Yeah.
Just chasing 3 kids around is pretty good training. Great. Favorite food?
Favourite food?
When you're not in training?
When I'm not in training, it's, as we spoke before, Hickories. I like to go to Hickories.
So American smokehouse type stuff. Ribs, chicken.
Ribs. I actually like the bone. A lot of people don't like this. I
Hold on
tell
now.
by your face, but I like the bone and the ribs when it's that soft.
Yeah. Jazza, only a boxer, I think, would come in and I ask him what their favorite food is, and he says, I like eating the bone.
That's what I like. It.
The bone
marrow,
on the
is
ribs.
It called marrow, is it?
Yeah.
Be careful. She doesn't like it. She sits next to me there going sick.
I would guess approximately 100% of the population would say similar to
I'm going
what
to try
she
it
said.
next time, though.
The bone. That is amazing. All right. What was the last book you either read or listened to?
The last book I read was... I started reading a book by Angelo Dundee.
Okay.
His thing was called In My Corner.
What was it about?
A boxing book. He's a boxing trainer, and now we got into boxing, and now we began to coach fighters, boxing, and then managing fighters. It was a good book. He turned out to trained and managed Muhammad Ali and Sugar Ray Leonard.
Okay.
And then as I was reading it, I didn't realise the next day I ended up in that gym. I was in Florida at the time, and I ended up. I was reading that book, and I was in the gym the next day in that gym, in the 50 gym in Miami.
Fantastic. Yeah, we talked a little bit before we recorded about your time in Miami during a hurricane, your first experience of a hurricane. Yeah. We won't go into the whole story, but could you just tell our listeners where you went to escape the effects of the hurricane? Where you ended up?
I ended up in an apartment, but at one point I was just going from hostel to hostel. I had nowhere to be, and then I got this call. Luckily enough, this summer said I'm going to Vegas, but you can take my apartment if you want. So I went to his apartment and stayed there with his cat, and it was just a crazy experience. Having to say goodbye to your family and actually finding out how deep your fate really is.
Yeah, so 6,000 miles from home.
Yep.
In an apartment on your own with a 20-something-year-old cat.
Yeah, 21.
21-year-old
cat. The poor
cat.
cat's died now. He died a few weeks ago.
You know, if he'd made it to 21, he did pretty good, didn't he?
Yeah.
But am I right that like you didn't know what to do? You'd never been in one before.
Nope.
Did you end up in the bathtub trying to?
No, didn't end up in the bathtub. I did end up in the bathroom, because that was the farthest room away from the house. I had a vision of myself getting sucked out the window.
You didn't know what was going to happen.
No.
Okay. Favorite flavor ice cream?
Possibly toffee, banana and toffee, maybe.
Banana and toffee.
I like banoffee.
Banoffee ice cream. What's your favorite style of music?
I like old music, like Fleetwood Mac and Stacey Chapman, Peter Gabriel.
Is that what you jog to when you're training?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
I can't imagine those being very vigorous workouts.
Yeah. No, I'm in a different mind frame. I come out to Peter Gabriel, Soul's Brill on the night. That's me ring walk music.
Any thoughts on that, Ben?
Is it the same song every time? Every time you walk out, Jazza, you come out to the same song?
Yeah, my 25 fights as a pro and a few before as an amateur has always been Peter Gabriel, Soul's Brill.
That's amazing.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
So you're from Liverpool. Do you still have family around?
Yep.
Yeah.
I still got my mum, still got my dad. I didn't have no brothers and sisters. I've got a lot of cousins. So yeah, I've got most of my family.
Most of your family still there?
Yeah, I'm lucky. I've got a good family.
Yeah, excellent. So how did you get into boxing?
Well, I've done a lot of like fighting on the school playgrounds and stuff like that, and yeah, I could always handle myself, but I was small, so I was fighting with the bigger kids. But when you go to boxing, everyone, it's like you're fighting smaller people, but they're not. They're really your same size and your same weight. So that's how I got into it. I was doing a lot of fighting, so I went down to a boxing club.
So just when you say fighting at school, that was like just beating up other people on the playground.
Or getting beat up.
Beat up. Non-sanctioned fights.
Yeah, so,
is that right?
Non-sanctioned, and we weren't getting paid either at the time. So we went down to the boxing gym and I got me medical. You have to take a medical to box. Got me medical, and then 4 weeks later I had my first fight, and I never looked back. I used to love football, and not long after that I quit the football and carried on to boxing.
Excellent. Now, you are former British champion.
Yep.
In which weight class?
Super bantamweight.
Super
8 stone
10. And how long did you hold that title?
I think it was about 3 years.
Yeah.
3 years, and I lost it last year. I'm fighting for it again.
Yes, you are. When are you doing that?
I find out on the 14th of February when the fight's going to be, but I know I've got a warm-up fight before that, which will be on the 2nd of March.
2nd of March warm-up fight.
Yep.
And you find out on the 14th of February when the title fight will be.
Yep.
Excellent. You're looking forward to that?
Can't wait.
Can't wait.
See, this is the thing about boxing that gets me. I can't wait to get punched. That doesn't, like, my vocabulary doesn't allow me to say those
love
words.
it when I punch you.
Only because it doesn't hurt. I don't want Jazza to punch me.
No, neither do I.
Well, I think the idea is to punch and not get punched. So
that's where I've been going wrong.
So that's exciting about your title fight. So training hard for that at the minute, aren't you?
Yeah. Training very hard. I've had a little bit of a rest day today and I'm back in tomorrow. I'll be sparring tomorrow and Friday. What
does training involve exactly? So my image of a boxer is just you stand at a pad or you stand in front of a person and you just practice. Is it what, like, I'm assuming there's more, I know there's more to it, but what other stuff goes into training for a fight that we wouldn't necessarily think of?
Well, there's a lot of different factors, and I think it's a game of tiny percentages. The more percentages you get, it goes better for you on the night sort of thing. Yeah. So I'll wake up at 6 a.m. I'll do me running. I'll either do hill sprints or sprints on the track. I'll come back. I'll have my nutrition. That's a massive factor. Nutrition is everything. And then I'll go to the gym and we'll do some sparring, pad work, bag work, circuit training. And then I'll come back home again. And then later on I'll do either hot yoga or normal yoga or strength work. You know, like circuit or strength and condition or spinning or something like that. So wow. Every fight is different, really.
Cardio in there as well, then.
Yeah, so it's 2 to 3 times a day for 6 days a week. So, and then I have my Sunday off, go to mass or something like that. But if training gets really heavy, it's just like I'm half paralysed then for the day, so I just have to get my rest back up. So if training's not too heavy, I'll go to mass on a Sunday.
Now, when I was asking you about doing this interview, I was talking to you, just texting with you about Christianity and boxing and how those two things work together. Now, you are a professing Christian.
Yep.
And can you just tell us, like, how did that happen? How did faith enter your life?
It was a mad one, really, because where I was saying before, where I'm from, it's not really spoken of. I went to a Catholic school, but once you leave school, it's just like you that's just something that you don't do, really. You go to church, and so my dad got clean. My dad was on heroin for like 18 years at that point, and he got clean. And when he got clean, he started a program, and I think he was going to mass in the program. So he asked me to go to church with him. I said I don't want to go to church, and he said, "Come on, you got nothing to lose." So I went with him anyway. And when I went in the church, I got a great feeling in there. I felt half like I was home. I'll never forget it. I was 18. I felt like I was home, and so I went away and we went home. He said, "Do you like that?" I said, "Yeah, it was all right, but it didn't sound how I really felt." So I went back a few days later on my own this time, and as we've all felt here, you just fall in love with God, and you're high on life, and you're floating, and like you feel like a little kid, and I fell in love with God, and I got myself a little Bible, and I started like getting little quotes out the Bible, and even to this day I have on my shorts Psalms 144:1, "Blessed be the Lord my rock, saying to my hands for war and fingers for battle." So little things like that would help me in boxing. So I started saying my prayers. I met a few decent priests and who was guiding me and stuff like that, and in my faith, and giving me a lot of the time. So since then, I've developed my own personal relationship with God rather than God is in that church. I now know that God is in my heart, and I've developed a personal relationship with God, and I'm happy where I am with me faith, and I feel like it's growing. And now I practice having the faith in the tough times. I sort of face the tough times different than I used to before I met God. Now I practice my faith in the tough times, and when I do have a tough time, I think, no, here I am now. This is what you asked for. You want to be strong. You want to be tough in your faith. Endure these times now.
So good.
Yeah, very good. Speaking of the tough times, you've come off a couple of losses.
Yep.
So can you tell us a bit about how your faith has helped you in that? How has God been real to you?
Yeah, well, the first loss I had, it was almost, I don't know how to say this, but I was like suicidal thoughts. It was that bad. The confidence, how you feel broken after a loss. The first loss I had was it was tough to take, and when I first started boxing, I didn't want a girlfriend. I didn't want a family, not like that. But God's grace has put them things into my life, and only at this time when I had my first loss, I stuck to my girl, and she was my lock throughout it. But if it was up to me, I wouldn't have had a girl. And it was God's grace who put her in my life, made me fall in love, and give me a family. So I used her to cling to, and do a lot of talking, and we both developed our relationship with God, sort of thing. So after my first loss, that was hard, but I used my family. After the second loss, got even harder. I knew we had my family this time, but I had a broken jaw. I fought for the world title, broke my jaw in that fight. So I couldn't fight, couldn't even train, really. So I couldn't spar at least for 6 months.
Wow.
So that was a tough time. Possibly the hardest time in my life, but when something goes wrong like that, I say like if I hurt my left hand, I understand it's because God wants me to work on my right hand. If I hurt my foot, I know it's because God doesn't want me to run. He wants me to stand and move my head, or little things like that. So when I had the fight when I broke my jaw, I thought, what does God want here? And I realised it's all just lessons or learning. So that's how I see it. And I knew that he wanted me to appreciate my family more. I had 2 kids at this point, so we now had 3. And I realised that God was more or less saying to me, you're focusing too much on boxing, you need to take a step back and appreciate your family. And that's the lesson I took from it, that I've got everything I ever want right here under my nose, and I'm going out there searching for this life that I think is going to change my life, when really it's here at home under my nose, So that's the losses are hard, but I think if you can use your faith, you either win or you learn. That's how I see it now.
Yeah, amazing. So good. This idea that, unfortunately, when things happen to a lot of us, we want to blame God, I think. I lost. God, why did you let me lose? I trusted you. I trained hard. I did everything. I went to mass every day. I did everything I was supposed to do. Why didn't you do your bit? I think often that's the default for humans, isn't it? And it's lovely to hear you talk about this idea that actually when things go wrong, the title of this podcast is Sing When You're Losing. When things go wrong, that's not the time necessarily to blame God, but the time to say, well, what can I learn now?
Yeah.
What are you teaching me now? Amazing. Also, when we were texting, you said to me, I want to try to get the quote right, because I was asking you about, I don't understand necessarily how Christians can really be into boxing. Like, you're pummeling someone else. Your whole goal is to knock the other person out. Yeah. Like, I like doing that to Johnny.
He tries.
But when I said that to you, you said you don't understand it. You said, I live boxing. So I live boxing, but the Lord is my passion, is what you said to me in the text. I just thought that was beautiful, just so well put. And then you went on to explain that it's not about getting angry with the other person or trying to hurt the other person. But what is it? What were you...
Yeah, well, you asked me, didn't you, how could you mix a violent sport with your passion for God? And I was explaining it's not violent. It's more of an art form, a physical art form. And when a fighter does put another fighter out, he doesn't celebrate it. Well, I don't think most fighters don't. They like to know that their opponent's okay and safe afterwards. Yeah. I think any fighter who's actually seriously armed another fighter delivered for the rest of their life. And I don't think I fully understand that myself, as in, like, I haven't experienced that, so I don't know how that would ever feel. And I do pray to God before every fight that my opponent's safe after the fight, I always do say my prayer for my opponent before and after the fight, so I don't think there's anything like that. There's nothing that you don't really want to hurt an opponent. You want to win the fight and you want to be successful, as it's a journey, and you want to get to the top of the ladder. Every fighter wants to do that, but I don't think any fighter wants to hurt another fighter. And people watch it on the TV and stuff, and they think that fighters do want to hurt each other, but they talk a lot of crap really because they want to sell a fight, and that's all it is. No fighters want to hurt any other fighters. Definitely not.
So often you see at the end, don't you? You see this big smack talk thing going on all the way through the press conference, and in the build-up, they're gonna, they really hate them. They really, I'm gonna knock him out inside 2 rounds or whatever, and all this kind of stuff. And then at the end of it, they're giving each other a hug and kind of they're really positive, like and it's not necessarily boxing, but the McGregor Mayweather thing that was all hype, and then at the end of it, they were as complimentary about the other person as they could be, and it's interesting.
A lot of the time, it's the fighter's fear in himself what's making him act like this towards the other fighter,
Yeah. You also said something about it's not about trying to hurt, but about trying to draw the best out of each other.
Yeah, I don't think fighters truly do hate each other a lot of the time, but often comes a time when fighters really love each other, because without that other fighter, they would never brought the best out of themselves, and they would never be that fighter that they could be. So I think you need people like yourself who are going to bring the most out of yourself to be the best that you can.
Yeah, amazing.
Jazza, would you say there's a struggle between? So, for example, in terms of, I guess, from playing football, there is a part where you have to beat the other team, and you play the game to beat the other team, and you want to win. But there's then also a bit like the diving thing earlier. There's then unwritten rules that maybe as Christians we shouldn't go looking extra to try and get that victory. And it's interesting hearing you say about, like, you want to bring the best out of somebody. Do you ever, when you're in the ring, hit temptation not to make it about anger or violence, or because I always find in football, if somebody does something to me that hurts me, that riles me up even more, and I want to overcome them. So I was just wondering if was there ever a time in the ring where you sort of, someone's got a cheap shot and that genuinely riles you up and makes you feel angry towards them. So it becomes less about, let's bring out the best, let's do the good Christian thing here, but more about, I just want to beat them up.
No, I think as a boxer, you go in the gym as a kid, and that's one of the main lessons that you will learn is that not responding, not reacting, and having a lot of discipline. The referee speaks, you listen, and that's one of the things that you learn when you're so young, and it's a great lesson in life. No, don't be losing your head and don't be disrespecting. So the referee, he's only small, but you listen to him, whatever he says, you listen to him. You know, there's two heavyweight fighters and a tiny little referee, but you see these heavyweights have got discipline. He could dismiss the referee, couldn't he, and disregard him so easily. He's only 8 stone, but yeah, they have them lessons, the strong lessons in life, what they've learned, and it goes all the way through life with them, not just in boxing, but they learn that inside the boxing club.
Very good. You're stronger when you're not angry. You're more focused when you're not angry. Is that?
I would say that happy fighter is the best fighter. And like I've done a lot of work a few years ago trying to find out on myself about what pushes me, and I'd say I'm at my best when I'm feeling love. But I would say that love is the most powerful force. I gain most energy from when I'm in a loving state. You know, that's when I feel I can train hard and train better, when I'm around my family and when I'm in a happy place. That's not amazing. Anger. I wouldn't to say non anger and resentments. I've done it in the past, but it's like you've got a ball and chain around your feet, dragging it with you. You can do it, but it's just a lot harder, you know.
I love what you said about the kind of, that's what they teach in the boxing club, because I work with young people as part of what I do, and I've seen kids who have anger issues, who've got discipline issues, and one of the first places that people send them to is the boxing club. And you think, what are you doing? Why are you sending them to there? Yeah. They're going to get worse. And actually, it's the exact opposite. It's the discipline and the control and the mental side of that is absolutely astounding. I want you to train me. I've got anger issues with a certain podcaster that's next to me.
You can say,
he's
couldn't
just
you?
Jealous.
That kid's got a lot of, you know, he wants to give him tools, give that angry boy tools to hurt someone. What's he going to do with him? But it's actually not that. It's how we can control these feelings and these emotions.
It's amazing.
Are you, so with the lessons that you've learned over the last few years with your faith, are you able to give that back yet to any younger boxers? Or, you know?
Yeah, a lot of the time, if they're willing to listen, then of course, I'll try my best to. But I find that where I'm from, you can't just say that to someone. You can't just throw it on them, because they treat you like you are mad, and they think they will call you like a Bible basher, or they don't respond to it really because they're not used to it. Just not used to hearing that, you know.
Yeah, but it is important, isn't it, to try to give that back. But yes, I guess particularly you'll know coming from that background that if you don't want to be told, you're not going to listen, right?
Yeah, of course, definitely. Yeah. I remember going to church when I just turned professional. There was one of my mates. I say he's my mate, but one of the lads by ours. I remember him saying to me, "Why are you going to church, lad? Are you gay?" And I thought, how can you? If it was or it wasn't, how do you get them two things and put them together? But that's just the society that was brought up in.
Yeah. Final question for me anyway. What do you do to unwind? What do you do for fun, just to kick back?
It's family time. It's family time with the kids. Take the kids out, spend time with my family. I'm lucky really because I love spending time with my family. I'm with them every day, but I don't get bored of it. I just wake up and I'm blessed and look at my family, look at my girl. And I just love being around them. And look, that's my pastime. It's great.
Excellent. That's wonderful. So yeah. Thank you so much. Thanks for joining us today. Thanks for being a part of the podcast. Thanks for being our very first guest on the podcast, our guinea pig, I think you were called earlier, our punching bag. We appreciate it. And just before we end, just a few people to thank.
Absolutely.
I think. Firstly, I'd like to thank Colin, who is here and helping to record and do a lot of behind the scenes stuff today.
On the ones and
you
twos.
can find him on the ones and twos. Absolutely. You can find him at Stir Media. And so it's great to have him along helping out. Media Stir. I apologize. Got it backwards. And then also Pete, who's also helping in the back. Thank you for giving up your time. Thanks to Tranmere Rovers once again for allowing us to use this room, this incredible setting. If you check out the videos, you'll be able to see where we are. And it's just a great room, great setting. And thanks to Johnny. I don't say that very often, but it's good to have Johnny and Ben joining as well. Have you guys enjoyed the first time?
Absolutely.
I've absolutely loved it. Absolutely. I just want to say I would regret if I never told a professional boxer. So Jazza basically, he said that I guess the playground set him up for life in terms of his boxing career. I think it did the absolute opposite to me. And the reason is because so I was 16 years old. I was quite mature, I think, for a 16-year-old. And the first time I ever punched somebody, the first time I ever punched somebody was he was sort of starting on me and pushing me, and then I reacted, and so I punched him in the nose. And all my friends literally congratulated me, and they were like, "Oh, mate, he was bullying you. Well done for punching him." And a 16-year-old Ben Cutting ran off crying. I was 16 years old, and that, for me, was the time when I learned probably boxing wasn't for me.
So you punched him in the nose, and then you ran away.
Yeah, so also a great opportunity just to say, Danny Cox, if you're watching or listening, I'm still very sorry for all those years ago when I punched you in the nose, and I did run off crying, and I'm sorry. So if you are listening, mate, I'm sorry.
So who won the fight then? Because you ran off crying, but
he had a bloody nose.
Call it a draw.
I'm going to say I did.
Of course you are.
I definitely ran off crying. But I've loved it. I've loved being here. Thanks for having me, gents.
Yeah, no, thanks for your input. Really appreciate it. Johnny, thank you. Thanks to everyone else. Listen, if you're listening, you can find us on all the social media platforms: Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, website.
We've got a website, singwhenyou'relosing.com.
Singwhenyou'relosing.com. So do check us out. If you have any comments, as long as they're positive, we would love to hear them. And we will be hopefully producing every other week a podcast.
I need to learn as a podcaster to go to the toilet before we start recording, because a little while in,
we will learn these lessons.
Nature called.
So thanks.
Smell?
Thanks for sticking with us and for humoring us. Hopefully we'll get better at this. But thanks for listening. See you later.